Hello everyone, my name is Pilar. I'm one of the missionaries here in San Francisco, and today we continue with these formations on Verbum Dei Spiriuality. We continue also with Mary and what Mary is for us, for our community, how we understand the Mother of God. And as today is Mother's Day, I want to congratulate all mothers listening to this talk and this formation. And also we wanted to focus how for us Verbum Dei, we always understand Mary as a mother of God and our mother. So in today's formation, I'm gonna deepen in that understanding that from the beginning, coming from our founder, as last week Ellen was sharing with us, coming from a culture and a place that was deeply rooted in devotion to Mary, our founder, from the moment he understood his vocation, went to Mary and asked her to help him. Once he ensured Mary's help is when he was ready to say yes. He found that God's call was too much for him and needed the help of Mary. And the way he asked her, as he used to tell the story, he will say, "Mom, you have to help me. If you don't help me, I cannot do this." And he understood that Mary was going to be with him. She became the mother of Verbum Dei in that moment when our founder put our community and God's plans also under her care. So in this formation, I'm gonna give you a few of Jaime's like very short writings on Mary. Also, it's gonna be like the points are gonna be quite straightforward. Mary is the mother of God, the Theotokos. She was called to carry God within her and to give light to and life to Jesus in that sense. Also, Jesus on the cross gave us his own mother, and she became in that moment our mother and also became our help to grow in this life of Christ that we are all called to imitate. In Verbum Dei, if you have been to any of our retreats and you have been in any of the moments with Mary that we have, you will have realized that for us, Mary is part of God's plan of salvation because God wanted it to. For us, the call of Mary was, as Jaime will say in this, as you can read, was the method, the pedagogy that the Holy Trinity used to give his life to the world. Jesus could have incarnated, if you want, in any way. The Trinity could have chosen any path to make known his love. But they chose Mary. They chose a mother. They chose to be born of a woman. So when we say that Mary is Mother of God, for us in Verbum they also have that tone, that color in this being a mother, because God called her to, because God wanted to use a woman to become man in this world. And she became the mother of God, the one who gave God's life to the world in that sense, who made possible that the plan of salvation of all humanity will happen in the way God wanted to. So God communicates his life to the whole church, even now, through Mary, as he did from the beginning of the incarnation. As you can read in these words of Jaime, in spiritual exercises, month in spiritual exercises that he gave in 2003, he said, we need therefore the mediation, the path, the method and the pedagogy that the Holy Trinity has wanted to take to give his life to the world. It is a pedagogy. Mary was the way they really thought we will understand the love that the Trinity has for us. Through the mediation of Mary, says Jaime, God communicates his life to the whole church until the end of time. It's still going on. The mediation of Mary is still powerful because God still wants to use her as a way for his grace, for his love to reach all God's children. By the way, I did this translation from the original in Spanish. Throughout all the PowerPoint, you are going to find the translations are a little bit weird in English. They sound a little bit always off. It's also sometimes off in Spanish. Jaime Bonet, our founder, was half poet, so his way of talking is always like using a lot of adjectives, imaginary, because he used to say, I mean, there were not enough words for him to describe what he was trying to say many times. So if you find that the English is a little bit hard to read, uh, I'm sorry. I try to do my best, but also I try to be faithful to Jaime's way of trying to explain what he understood that Mary was for Verbum Dei, for the world, for the church, for the plan of salvation, for the communication of God's love to all mankind, or humankind. So this mother that God used in a way to become human at the end of Jesus' life was given to us as a mother too. You have here John 19, 26, 27. Jesus is dying on the cross and he looks and see the disciple whom he loves, isn't it? Each one of us, each person trying to follow him to the best of their capabilities, just watching him from a distance in that moment. So Jesus sees the disciple and then sees his mother. And he said to her, "Woman, here is your son." And to the disciple, "Here is your mother." This reading for Verbum, I mean, for the whole church, but for us is one of the main readings regarding Mary, because it's the one who tells us that Jesus wanted us to have her as a mother in somehow the same way that he did have Mary as a mother. The mother who takes care, the mother who is welcome in our house, the mother who is able to say things to you, to say things to you. Mary became our mother at the foot of the cross. She had to do this change, or she had to say yes again. In the Annunciation, she said yes to being the mother of God. At the foot of the cross, she says yes to being the mother of us all, of the disciples of Jesus, of the followers. And it's so beautiful how it finishes. The disciple, from that time on, took her into his home. She became her mother. In those times, in Bible times or New Testament times, a woman could only enter a man's house as a relative, as a mother. So he took her exactly as a mother. And this is very important for our spirituality too, because Mary comes to us as the one who can educate us, who can help us, who can form in us this disciple that is able to follow Christ till the end. The apostles that then later on in the Acts of Apostles we will see praying with Mary will be somehow also formed by the mother, that is an expert in helping her children understand and follow the plan of God for their lives. Mary, even in these moments now that we are all sheltering in place, although some some counties are already open, and some of you maybe are listening from other states. But here in California, here in San Francisco, we are still sheltering in place. This welcoming Mary in your home as your mother, within those walls that we are now living in, within even the walls of fear, the walls of what's going to happen. And they talk about this new normal, and you say how it can be normal if it's not lived yet. It's in all this insecurity that we are living now, even in the moments of growth that some of us are living now, because losing jobs and not knowing what's going to happen. Mary can come into our house and become the mother, become the one who takes care of us. This, for us in Verbum Dei, is very important. There cannot be discipleship, Jaime will say, without Mary, because you need someone to help you to grow into the disciple that God needs you to be and is calling you to be, into your own call, in the same way that Mary helped Jesus when he was a little kid. She helps us in those moments that we still again find ourselves not knowing what to do, scared. We still need a mother, and we have her, and we have a mother in Mary. Through Mary, God wants to reveal his maternal face, his maternal love to all peoples. This is a key element of our spirituality. There is this maternal love of God that he showed throughout the Old Testament, and is still now showing to us, that he also wants to show his maternal face, his maternal love through Mary, that became God's own mother. God somehow through Mary loves us in the closest and most familiar, most effective and delicate way, Jaime will say. Mary becomes for God this perfect mediation of his own love. Jaime will speak about God's love as intimate, delicate, infinite, and for all his children without exception. And Mary is that image of God's love in a mother, through a mother. This fragment is a quotation from the Verbum Dei missionary fraternity statutes. It is an internal document of the community that has been approved by the community, and it was written by Jaime, our founder, at the beginning of the community. It was a way of trying to summarize our spirituality, how we saw our Catholic faith. If it helps you during this week to continue with these different points I'm making, Mary as the Mother of God, chosen as part of the plan of salvation, with that special place that God wanted to give her. Mary, if you want to pray with Mary, accepting being your mother also, your mom, accepting, saying yes to entering into your home and become for you the mother, the instrument of God's love through her. Or if it helps you also to see how God through her reveals maternal love. So through the beginning of our community, Jaime was very clear that Mary was a present that Jesus gave to all his followers, his disciples, to anyone who wanted to grow in this eternal life, who wanted to know God more. For all of us, every time that we were in a crisis, we always tend to to turn to Mary. If you have been in any encounter, in any retreat with the missionaries, you know that we used to finish normally all our meditations with a prayer to Mary. From the beginning, that love, that help that God gave us through her, we see it as essential. And for everyone. Jaime, here in the number of the statues that you have, you can see that says, God's infinite love for all his children without exception. This without exception for us is the key to being able to put everyone before Mary. Because we know that Mary said yes to Jesus at the foot of the cross to take care of all God's children, without exception. We all have the capacity to walk this discipleship life, this human life that we have, walk hand by hand with Mary. And this walking hand by hand, de la mano de María in Spanish, it is as a child walks taking their mom's hands. When you see a mother with a child on the street, she's holding the child's, or the mother is holding the child's hands, guiding him, also keeping the child safe. Mothers hold children by their hand because that's the way many times they make sure the child is protected. Nothing will happen. The child is close to them. This is the image that Jaime, in this last quotation I give, that Jaime is using to show how we are called, or we are invited, if you want, to walk every day of our lives, by the hands of Mary, close to her, protected by her love, protected by her. That is still the mediator of so many graces, of so much strength of God that comes to us through her. By the hands of Mary, we learn every day to pray, said Jaime. We learn to proclaim the wonders of God. Very close to her, we are very close to God. One of the first things that I think I was very new in the community, and Jaime came to where I was living to give a week of spiritual exercises. And then he used this image of us taking the hands of Mary. But Mary, with her other hands, she's taking God's hand. So Jaime said, if you ever feel yourself far away from God, if you ever feel like you don't know where God is, if you ever feel like you cannot hear his voice, or you really think that God has forgotten about you, just hold on to Mary, because Mary is always, always with God. She's always, always full of God, and her other hand will be holding God's hands. And that image of me, of us holding one hand of Mary, and Mary holding on to God, and becoming this bridge between me and God. Jaime was saying, don't worry if you feel far away from God. Hold on to Mary and you will be with God immediately, because she's always with him. She's always that perfect door. They used to call her in the beginning of Christianity, that perfect door into heaven. So I finished these little points about Verbum Dei spirituality on Mary as a mother with this invitation in these moments of uncertainty. If you feel like fearful, or you feel insecure, or if you don't know what's going to happen, or if you are having problems trusting God in this moment, just get closer to Mary. Take her hand, talk to her. Let her presence become for you a door into heaven, a door into God's love,